As we start our journey through the rich history, present time and future of the mobile tower industry, I am thrilled to introduce our first presentation. So we're about to delve into the evolution of the mobile tower as it is, the technical and safety standards, a crucial topic that highlights how far we've come and perhaps where we're heading. Our distinguished panel of speakers are Charlie Wright, CEO of Alto Access, who is the current Deputy Chair and Chair of our Technical Committee. We've got John Darby, the General Manager at Test and Research Centre, Gail Hounsley from the Ladder Store, and Ross Dryden, who is the Head of Digitalisation from PASMA. So each of them bring a wealth of experience and understanding, and they're probably sitting there right now going, wealth of experience? What? Understanding? You know, before you come up to one of these things, everything you plan to say suddenly leaves your head. And they're probably thinking now, oh God, it's happened. But I'm sure. So please, let's give a warm welcome to our panel, starting off with my good friend, Charlie.
Thank you, Steve. That's the best character reference I've ever had. I'd like to add my personal welcome to all of you to PASMA's 50th anniversary conference. This is a great opportunity to celebrate some of the achievements of PASMA and its members that make up the tower industry, and also to look forward to what the future of towers might hold. In that context, this first section of the conference is snappily entitled Making Towers Safer, a History of Innovation and Progress. Now, in the short time available, we clearly can't go into all the changes and developments of the last 50 years. This is going to be very much a whistle-stop tour, and I'm sure that many of you will be relieved to hear that. I know I am. But in the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk a little bit about the overview of those changes that have brought us from the generally accepted dawn of the mobile tower to now. John Darby is going to give you an insight into tower testing down the ages, which we anticipate will reveal some interesting dress sense decisions from the past. Gail Hounsley from the Ladder Store is going to highlight the growing influence that the hirer dealer members are having on the safe use and application of towers. And Ross Dryden of PASMA is going to paint a picture of the possibilities of potential transformative impact of digital technology. So, in the beginning was the word, or in the case of mobile access towers, the patent. This is the Wally Johnson original patent drawing. And there are some interesting things about this to the tower nerds in the room. But for me, the obvious thing is that it looks very little different from towers of today, except in the area of safety, perhaps. Rather obviously, it's rather short on guard railing around a platform. It has a staircase, whereas most towers today have a ladder, and the staircase is a bit bereft of handrails as well. But it looks recognisably similar to a more modern stair tower, like that. Okay, so we're used to towers being mostly on wheels, with horizontal rungs in the end frames instead of diagonals, but still pretty similar. It even has a device in the brace claw to stop the braces sliding sideways, which some manufacturers still use to this day. The trouble is, or rather was, that in those days anyone could decide to make a tower. And so, as the use of towers spread, a whole heap of businesses started making equipment of their own devising, some of it more well thought out than others. Just as a little reminder, a trip down memory lane, here are a few of the brand names from the past. I'm sure I will have missed a few that came and went, and I apologise if anyone here is connected with any of those. But it's quite a collection there. Then we started to get the beginnings of regulation, and this drove developments which started to take us away from things like these. Putting that tower up is an acrobatic feat, which was perfectly acceptable then, but would seem completely ridiculous today. Or even this beauty. Now, I'm glad you laughed. One might think that this link tower is a bit of a step forward because it's got great things like intermediate platforms. But if you look a little closer, there are no guardrails on any of them, and there's only one at the top. There's no access stair or ladder of any kind, and the nearest end of the tower is made using walk-through frames, so there's no guardrail at all. You can walk straight off the end of the tower. And I won't draw attention, or perhaps I will, to how far the legs are screwed out. Good news is, though, they fitted toe boards and put lamps on it. We got, in the 1970s, 80s, a whole emerging raft of safety legislation in the UK, and the creation of organisations like PASMA that helped to drive towards a more effective product certification system. The emergence of HD 1004 in 1992 was a start. It brought a rash of hitherto unknown things like metric dimensions and intermediate guardrails of all things. And although it took some 12 years to transform the Harmonisation Directive into a full standard, there is no doubt that this period brought about a sea change in the approach to safety in working at height. And it brought a number of changes, like abandoning old rules of thumb, like if it's less than 5 metres, you don't need to regulate it. And it also brought us things we know today, like the AGR and 3T methodologies. And so that gives us, as we come up to the more modern times, towers that look like these. And the process carries on for the development of equipment for below 2.5 metre heights, things like podiums, room scaffolds, delta decks and the like. And even today, the standards committees are still trying to slowly, albeit, introduce improved standards for these small mobile access towers. However, as we saw in the beginning, and as has been starkly revealed by PASMA's examination of DIY towers, even today, and after all this work, things will not actually get any better without someone to objectively test and certify products against benchmark standards, because the ever-present pressure to make things cheaper will result in dangerous products coming onto the market. And that seems like a suitable moment to hand over to John Darby to give you an insight into the world of tower testing. John is a veteran of the mobile access tower engineering world, having worked for many years in the engineering and design team of a tower manufacturer, and then for PASMA before helping to set up the Test and Research Centre. John.
Christ, there's a lot of people out there. Jesus. Thank you, Charlie, for that lovely introduction. As Charlie said, I'm John Darby, the General Manager at the Test and Research Centre, and in the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to look back at how testing has been done with mobile towers through the ages. So since the earliest days of mobile towers, testing has played a vital role. As Charlie showed on a slide earlier, during the early years and the decades that followed, a large number of companies sprang up, all with their own ideas of how to design and make mobile towers. Now, in these pioneering black and white days, there wasn't much in the way of published design standards or product specifications. It would have been up to each company to create and validate their own design in their own way. And so product testing was the only way to validate a design's capacity and safety. Engineers needed to create its components and practically put them all through their paces. This was needed to understand areas like failure modes and the importance and differences in bracing patterns. Thanks to submissions from some of the manufacturing members and a bit of a dig through the PASMA archive, we have an interesting little insight into how this was achieved. And don't worry, for anyone out there, names have been omitted to protect the innocent. So one of the earliest submissions we have here is in drawing form from 1971. Now, the 70s were a little before my time, despite this haggard appearance, but the use of cameras to record evidence of testing doesn't seem that common. So these ingenious engineers used their pencil and ink skills to draw the test, and then what occurred, together with a written detailed description. And in this example, shows what over 4 tons can do to a little 5-foot square tower. Later in that same year, we have these black and white photos taken of testing that was undertaken at the Polytechnic of Central London. This is now the University of Westminster. It's near Madame Tussauds. It's only a couple of miles away from where we are today. This is a large-scale test where an 8.6 metre tower was vertically loaded to failure at 29 tonnes. And as you can see, it didn't really like that. From what's been shared in the PASMA archive during this period, testing seems to be mainly destructive, taking the tower or a component to failure and then using a factor of safety to work back to a safe working load. Now, presumably, each manufacturer chose their safety factors may differ because there wasn't any published standards or specifications of how to do it. If we move into the 70s now, we have some lovely sepia examples of how testing was performed, including this one where a single width tower at perhaps about 6 metres high has been loaded at every platform level with £6,000 or 2.7 tonnes in new money. As we can see, they're all performed under the keen eye of an engineer without the aid of a safety net, guardrail, harness, but he does seem to be sporting the latest in safety kipper ties. Travelling into the 80s now, and this example from 1985 shows another complete tower, this time being loaded by crane. The workers are clearly in overalls doing the work, whilst the engineers and management in suits and safety beards look on. Moving into the 90s and even into the 21st century, overload testing was still used as part of product development and to find the ultimate limits of any particular design. This also verified that the calculations and the engineer's assumptions were indeed correct, and this design ultimately did find its limit. As we move towards the modern era with the advancements in standards for both towers and calculations across Europe, tower verification is largely undertaken now in the virtual world, built on many decades of prior work. Today's engineers are not outside braving the elements, sporting the latest in safety fashion, nor are they placing heavy weights atop towers. They're usually sat in the office, or even at home these days, in front of a computer whilst it does the complicated analysis, and they're chugging back another coffee. I'll deal with the engineers later. However, even with the latest changes to 1004, there's still a place for physical testing, as shown here from the recent DIY Towers project. Practical testing, as shown here, gives manufacturers and, more importantly, regulators an easy way to understand and verify things like guardrail strength that all ensure user safety. Finally, looking to the future, who knows? Maybe with design and calculation software integrated with a little AI magic, these software tools might even design and test the products for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for those insights into the development of tower verification. From my own participation in standards committees, I can confirm that the debate over the merits of calculation and modelling as a way of ensuring safe design compared to physical testing is still an ongoing thing. Now, Gail Hounsley of Ladder Store is going to talk about the role that hire dealers have or are continuing to have in the story of our journey towards safer towers. With over 25 years of experience, Gail is the founding director of Ladder Store and one of the first online resellers of work at height equipment, and the first to implement the Hire a Dealer PASMA audit. As an elected member of the Hire a Dealer Committee, Gail played a role in creating our Hire a Dealer Knowledge Academy, and she's also actively involved in her community, supporting at-risk youth through the charity Backup Northwest. Gail.
Thank you for that, Charlie. Right, as we've already heard, PASMA manufacturers are subject to a detailed audit by PASMA. The manufacturers has produced the best products which are rigorously tested and carry third-party certification. In the next session, you'll hear more about PASMA's comprehensive network of training providers and how they're equipped with products, information and tried and tested methods of delivering training to candidates with various skills, knowledge and experience. Every candidate must understand tower safety and prove that they understand it. Here's the reality. Currently, mobile towers are used in many different ways, from construction to facilities management, painting, electrical and mechanical, and fitting solar panels. Towers of all types, heights, widths, sizes and configurations are in demand to enable people to work safely at height. And yet, Most tower users don't know who manufactured their tower, even though it's on the instruction manual and marked on components. There's not many more ways you can give them that information. Because a PASMA card is valid for up to 60 months, 5 years, they will probably see their training provider only once every 5 years. The link here is the Hire a Dealer. PASMA Hire a Dealers are the regular point of contact with the ultimate user, our customer. Wouldn't it be great if the customer was always confident that the right products, training and advice were consistently available at the point of need, regardless of which location, supplier or member? Wouldn't it be great if PASMA Hire a Dealer members were held to the same demanding quality levels as manufacturers and training providers? PASMA started, as Charlie said, as a manufacturers association. The association's growth was propelled by introducing standards and audits for training. Hire a Dealers are the natural next step. In 2022, PASMA saw this link just after COVID and set up a Hire a Dealer committee. The PASMA Hire a Dealer is the first point of call for most tower users. We're the connection with the end user, the ultimate customer. We know this is a big responsibility, and the PASMA Hire a Dealer community has been working hard to make sure great products and practical training are consistent every time a tower is hired or sold. And this is what we've been doing for over the last few years. We have been busy. We've recently launched the first PASMA Hire a Dealer Knowledge Academy modules. The Knowledge Academy is a range of online modules to equip all Hire a Dealer staff with relevant knowledge to support their work, available at no extra cost to Hire a Dealer members. So if you take on a new member of staff, you can log them onto the PASMA website and they can work their way through training on towers, giving them vital knowledge to pass on to the tower user, your customer. I would like to thank Martin Doran and Marcus Gunning, who gave up their time and worked alongside Jason Carlton to put all the information together for the Knowledge Academy. Without their very hard work, the Knowledge Academy would not exist. Hand in hand with the Knowledge Academy, audits and surveillance on Hire a Dealers have already started. This activity provides confidence to managers and customers that everything is being done correctly and their Hire a Dealer consistently meets high standards every member signs up to when they join PASMA. And Ladderstore were one of the first to go through this procedure, and it wasn't that painful, though I didn't do a lot of the work, but I was told it wasn't that painful. And the symbol of quality and reliability, the new Hire a Dealer Smart Badge, so you get a badge when you've gone through the audit, is already identifying members who have met PASMA's Hire a Dealer high standards. In summary, although PASMA's Hire a Dealer committee might be the most recent formal committee, Hire a Dealers are fundamental to ensuring that the right products and training are backed by good advice, consistent service and support. With our reach, influence and regular contact with the end user, we're an integral part of tower safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. And now Ross Dryden is going to give us a taste of the future direction and the impact that digital technologies can have on improving the safe use of towers in the real world. Ross is PASMA's head of digitalisation and has led the advancement of TowerSure, the implementation of the virtual PASMA card, and the development of My Access Industry, a single sign-on service to simplify our members' access to digital services. With a background in product management and in a range of engineering companies, Ross ensures that PASMA's digital transformation is at the forefront of innovation. Please welcome Ross Dryden.
Thanks, Charlie. Right, so we've covered some aspects of product safety, but products are used by people, and people can be a little bit more complicated. So we're moving to kind of a more data-driven way to understand what those people actually do. And historically, we only really knew who the learners were and some key facts about them, and that's really all we needed. But that causes a bit of a problem because it doesn't really give us any knowledge of what they do in the real world. And this has implications. It means that we don't follow up with them. It can mean that we don't have a feedback loop, so we're not learning and improving continuously what we're doing. And this can create a situation where there's a disconnect between what happens in the classroom and what people actually do in real life. So the good news is now with TowerSure, we're starting to generate huge amounts of data about what people really do in the real world and how they behave. And we can combine that with pre-existing data to generate genuine insights about what we do and how people behave, to learn, really, because we've never been able to have that feedback before. So we can combine these new insights into what people do and use that to change how we actually plan our business and what we do. So we're going to look at one key example. This is one data point of thousands, and that is how many people are building towers they're not qualified to build. And it won't be any surprise to most of you, I'm sure, that it's a lot. So the difference now is, rather than having an assumption that people aren't doing what they should do, we can see exactly how many, who they are, who they work for, and more importantly, we have the tools to do something about it now. So in this particular scenario, you would look at a situation where you can identify what that opportunity is. We now have a method of communicating with those people directly, so we can talk to users through the app, through things like notifications, but we can also talk to their managers and decision makers through things like online dashboards, provide them with recommendations, and use behavioural science to actually encourage them to get more training. And that's the kind of the hook that we're looking to implement to improve what we do, grow our business, and improve safety for everybody that uses our products. And this is just the beginning. It's one aspect of what we're working on, and hopefully it's just the first step of many to come, which are going to transform the way that we interact with our members, the users of our products, and people we train. So I hope that gives you something to think about, and look forward to presenting more to you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Ross. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, a brief history of tower development, if not of time. The past, the present, and a glimpse of the future, highlighting some of the valuable work of the people in our industry from different disciplines and specialisms, pushing in the right direction to make the design, manufacture, supply and use of towers verifiably safer. Now I'd like to hand back to Steve Booker to introduce the next segment of the afternoon. Thanks for listening, guys.